And we're live. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. It is Wednesday night, not Thursday, but we're doing this thing, our American Sci-Fi Classics Track quarantine panel, live on Wednesday instead of Thursday, because tonight is a very special night.
Jello was invented.
I don't listen to you, Gary. Please. Let's see. Beth, tell people why tonight is a special thing that we are doing.
Hello there. It's a special thing because today is the 45th anniversary of the release of Star Wars A New Hope, Episode 4.
See?
Otherwise known as Orthodox Star Wars Day.
Yeah.
Yes.
So for all those who celebrate, tonight we're doing it. Welcome. Here's the thing. We have gotten some good pals of ours from a podcast that you all should be listening to called Execute Chapter 66. And I'll let them introduce themselves after I introduce my cohort in this wretched hive of scum and or villainy. One internet to my left, Mr. Gary Mitchell.
Hello, everybody. A pleasure to be here. Don't take any wooden boffins.
Why? What? Okay.
You're out.
And one internet south of Gary, John. Welcome.
Hello, my name is John Hudgens. I'm a filmmaker. I've done several documentaries, and I've actually worked on Star Wars projects. I did all the artwork for the Star Wars Pocket Model game from WizKids back about 10 years ago. And, of course, my other Star Wars bona fides, people know me from the fan films Jedi Hunter and Sith Apprentice, which both won the Audience Choice Award in the official Star Wars Fan Film Awards.
Neat. We'll get to this. Instead of jumping ahead, so I don't forget anybody. Chad, welcome.
Hi, I'm Chad. I'm on a podcast with these other two. I'm the mouth, Beth's the reader, and Ryan's the researcher. That's kind of how it works out.
And I believe next up, alphabetically, Ryan.
Hey, good to see everybody tonight. Go and get my obligatory Plo Koon reference out of the way.
Nice.
Plo Koon, number one Jedi. New Hope would have been better if he was in it.
True. And one internet to the right of Gary, one internet north of Ryan. Beth, welcome.
Joe Crowe, I should have expected to find you holding Gary's leash. I thought I recognized your foul stench when I was brought on board this panel.
Needed more accent.
When did you come up with that?
I'm
What
sorry.
time of day did you come up with that?
Like 2 seconds ago.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
All right. Pretty good.
I have a bad feeling about this.
Oh,
Pretty good.
even better. You guys, thank you. How soon after this thing debuted in 1977, some of you were 1 or 2 or negative something. When did you guys first see it? Gary.
I have to say, I didn't see the actual film until it had come out on CBS. The first network broadcast, because I grew up in the middle of nowhere and my stepfather didn't believe in paying money for movies. So we never got to go to the movies.
Oh.
However, I had the novelization, I had the comic book adaptation, I had the book and record.
Ooh.
So I knew the story inside and out long before I ever saw it. And I still loved it. I saw the holiday special before I saw the actual movie.
Yes.
And you stuck around.
I stuck around. I was, as a testament to my 7-year-old self, the 8-year-old self, the next year I kept hunting in the listings of, they play these holiday specials every year. When is it going to be on? That's how desperate I was for Star Wars content.
Exactly. It was but we're not doing a panel about that. We will though.
We will.
And we have.
Yes.
Don't get us started.
But yes, that is when I first actually saw this movie, which means so very, very much to me.
Yeah. And Mr. John Hudgens.
I was actually in the theater the night before it opened. We went to go see Race for Your Life, Charlie Brown, and they ran the trailer for it. And it scared my little sister so much that my mother wouldn't take us to go see it. And so it wasn't until later that summer, I think late July or August, my Boy Scout troop was trying to go see Sinbad and the Eye of the Tiger. And it was sold out. And they said, well, let's all go see Star Wars again. And it's like, what's Star Wars? And they're like, well, it's this movie that. And so we went and saw it. And then I drug everybody to go back and see it again. So and I'm going to take my belt off, but I'm going to, not take my pants off. But
that's good.
To this day, I have been wearing this belt buckle ever since that first day. This is the same belt buckle I got that week in 1977. The belts have changed, but the buckle is the same one.
That is so cool. I saw it like a few weeks later. We had one theater in Clanton, Alabama. It only showed 2 movies, and neither of them were Star Wars when the thing first came out. It was weeks before when I had seen all the commercials and all of the toy stuff had not yet come out. But then when I finally saw it, I thought, well, I got to see this like 10 more times. And now when Empire Strikes Back happened, which is not what we're talking about tonight, that I was in line for.
A lot of that.
That was what I was in. I stood in line for that thing. So, Chad.
I'm in Gary's boat. I'm a little younger. I was only 1 when it came out. And so I saw it when I was 4 or 5 on, I guess it was CBS, wherever the network television debut was. 4 or 5 years old. My parents let me stay up too late to watch it. I sat on my knees in front of whatever their 17-inch, 19-inch cathode ray television was at the time. And I didn't move for 3 hours. And while I appreciate people seeing it on the screen back then, and it sounds amazing, I wouldn't trade it for anything. My first experience.
Oh no.
It was just as big as seeing it in the theater, watching it on that 17-inch television screen.
And when it came to TV, that, as you said, Chad, that was an event in itself.
Yeah, it used to be an event when movies would come on network television. It was like a big deal.
They had a whole special and everything.
Yeah, I think Billy D. Williams hosted it from like the Mos Eisley Cantina or something. There was something going on. I remember from when I was a kid.
Sweetness.
Yeah.
Let's go to Ryan.
Well, I guess I'm the youngling of the group. I was.
Watch out! You know what happens to younglings.
I got a lightsaber right over there.
I was -2 when A New Hope first came out. But yeah, I think my first seeing the actual movie was on CBS, but I'd always had the toys before that and all of it. Like, it was always around. I think I'd read the book before I even ever saw the movie.
Oh yeah, me too. And I think I read the Han Solo novels at Star's End. I got those in the local library and kept them until they were way overdue.
Star's End, Lost Legacy, and Han Solo's Revenge.
That is indeed correct. And Beth?
I was also too young. I know my parents went to see it without me. They didn't believe in taking babies to movies because it's a pain in the butt and the kid's not going to remember it anyway.
Right.
So, but they were so excited about it that when they were able to get it, to view on TV and to have me watch it and be old enough to remember it, they were very, very excited. And they plopped me and my baby brother in front of the TV and we were enraptured.
My first viewing of it at home was my Uncle Jeff got the Laserdisc, which was bigger than an album. And if you watched it too long, it would overheat. And much like it was like a visual 8-track, and it would go.
You sure that wasn't a CED disc and not a Laserdisc? Because Laserdisc really didn't overheat, but the CEDs did.
Yeah, my uncle was an early adopter I bet you are correct. I bet I'm saying the wrong thing, but yeah,
Okay.
he did that, and there was not room enough on one side of the disc, so
Mhm.
there was a whole contraption, and you had to flip it, then watch the rest of the thing. But
See, that's why you're here, John, to correct Joe.
somebody has to.
Joe and I are the old farts, you know.
So let's. Well, we didn't introduce your podcast. Chapter 66.
Okay. That's okay.
Yeah, tell us about it.
Execute Chapter 66 is our Star Wars fiction podcast. We read Star Wars novels and we talk about them. It's for people who either have read the books and want to have like a little book club about them, or for people who don't have time to read the books and just kind of want to hear a synopsis and hear us talk about them to kind of keep themselves up on things. We also cover news, and then when something special comes along, like a television show or something like that, we also will we'll get a little panel on and talk about the television shows. So it's just something we do every 2 weeks.
I have to say that personally, I started listening just to do that. Okay, I'll probably never get around to these books, and I'll just listen to them talk about it, so I'm caught up with them. And like 6 times now, you guys have made me go and buy a book because I was like, okay, I got to read this.
Yeah,
well, that's the hope. Yeah, that's our hope. But we're very clear that we're not a review show because we spoiled the hell out of the books, and aren't trying to be reviewers. We're just trying to have it's just 3 friends talking about what they like to talk about.
Yeah, it's partially started because my wife, shockingly, doesn't want to talk to me about the books I read. And so I need an excuse to talk to somebody.
You have to have somebody. Beth's husband does not care. My wife does not care. Ryan's wife does not care. We got to have someone to talk Star Wars to.
It's my favorite Star Wars podcast, and I don't say that just because you're here.
Well, we appreciate it. We have a lot of
he says it when you're not here, I promise.
We have a lot of fun.
All right, Gary, you can come on again. It's fine.
Yay!
Hey, you're welcome back. You can come talk about Obi-Wan with us.
Yay! Yeah, I'm going to the beach this weekend, and I'm making sure to bring the good laptop so I can watch it.
Nice.
So I'm going to be getting up at the crack of dawn Friday morning to watch it over breakfast. I don't know if Heather's going to get up and watch it with me, but I will be up crack of dawn.
It's the 2022 version of Standing in Line, except you don't have to leave your home. It's great.
I don't do
so
crack
there's
of
a question.
dawn, so I'll probably watch it about crack of noon.
Crack of noonish, yeah. Gary.
So that actually leads me to a question I'd like to ask. Has anybody here stood in line for one of the movies?
Oh, God, all of them. Matter of fact, just a little while ago, I came across a news report from our local NBC station from 1999. I don't even remember shooting the interview for it, and they got me showing off my lightsaber in the line for all the episode 1 tickets. But oh yeah, I remember we did it for Empire, and we couldn't get it until like the 3rd day. For Jedi, we all cut school to get into the theater, and the only reason we were able to get away with it was because the principal cut school too. And you rat us out, we rat you out. And I remember we actually had Domino's deliver pizza to us in line, and they did it. And some guy offered me a Revenge of the Jedi button for a slice of pizza, and I turned it down because I wanted the pizza. And to this day, I was like, "Damn it! I should have taken it.
Should have gone hungry."
I waited in line about 12 hours for Phantom Menace tickets, and then probably about 8 hours for the movie to actually start that night. But since then, I discovered this thing called reserve seating.
Mm.
And, but back then we didn't have stuff like that.
No, we didn't in '99, although theaters were starting to. But as time went on, like for the sequels, I was,
Yeah, for all the modern films, we've done that. So that's one thing we miss, especially because used to be even if you got the tickets, you still had to get to the theater like an hour, 2 hours early, so you could make sure that you could get in and get
a good
prime seats. Yeah,
or even just a decent seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When Thursday shows became a thing, I did that for a while, but then that got to be the night that everybody went. So I am crowd averse at a movie theater. I don't want to hear what everyone around me has to say about a movie. I want to watch the movie. So I like to go when it's not crowded. So I generally don't have to deal with waiting in line, because I would sacrifice waiting a few hours to be able to enjoy the movie comfortably.
Oh yeah, but there's a lot to be said for the energy in that first showing.
Oh
and
yeah,
the
of course.
electricity in the room. And
Oh,
it's
I'm
all
sure.
topic.
I know I'm making a big trade-off.
Yeah. When the Star Wars logo came up in '99, I've never heard a crowd explode more when the logo.
Mhm.
It slowly deflated over the next 2.5 hours, but when it started, it was huge.
Yeah, nothing will match that chill that ran down my back at Phantom Menace when that a long time ago popped up on screen. And I was just like,
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then,
we're here to talk about
still get chills. I still get chills from the opening fanfare.
well, I've got
I still remember being a kid. Every time I heard the Fox fanfare, I'd go running into the room and then be disappointed that it wasn't Star Wars.
I still miss it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
miss it on the stuff.
Now I'd love it if Disney would go back, since now that they own 20th Century Fox, if they go back in and stick that on the sequels. But I know it won't happen. But it's just going straight to the Lucasfilm logo just never seemed right. You need the fanfare. I always thought.
Yeah.
No, but I do have a story about Star Wars and the fanfare and all that. I think I may have told this before, but if you want me to expound for a few minutes.
Sure.
Okay. Back in '93.
Or don't.
Oh, well.
Or he drops. Okay, so apparently the Imperial entanglements were too much.
So let's talk about. He's back. Okay.
Okay, hang on. So let me. I don't know. I may have a weak connection. But anyway, as I was starting to say, Lucasfilm wouldn't let Star Wars be shown theatrically for a while unless it was for charity. And so the Fox station I worked at in '93, we set up a screening for the juvenile. It was going to benefit the Juvenile Diabetes Foundation, but we had to do it at 9:30 in the morning because that way all the they knew that anybody showing up was coming for that. So all the ticket proceeds and all the concession proceeds would go to the charity. So I pulled my laser discs. I made up a commercial for this, for the thing, and because this was years, after the films, we'd had Heir to the Empire, but Star Wars seemed to be, not so much a thing, and we ran the commercials, and I hoped, we'd fill the theater because we had the big THX house at one of the mall theaters here in town, and I didn't worry about getting a seat for myself because I was working for the station. We had, reserved seats for me and Heather, and so we pull up to the mall, Easttown Mall in Knoxville, at about 9 o'clock that morning. And we see a line of people coming out of the mall, wrapping around the entire upper level of the mall, through the parking lot down to the lower level of the mall. We had about 6,000 people show up for an 800-seat auditorium. We ended up changing the film through 4 projectors, managed to seat about 1,600 people. So, we were a little delayed. And so, everybody's in the room, there's energy. It's like, we're going to see Star Wars theatrically. Hadn't been seen this way in forever. We're in a THX house. Mm-hmm. And the 20th Century Fox logo comes up and it's silent.
Oh.
Maybe there's a problem. Nothing, no audio. Long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. Star Wars. Silence. Crap. A second later, some guy in the audience starts going dun da da dun da 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 dun da da da, and within a second, 800 people start singing the main title of the Star Wars. Halfway through the crawl, the music cuts it back in at full volume. And I swear to God, to this day, and Heather will back me up because she was there, we were exactly on the right note. And you want to talk about the thunderous we gave ourselves at that moment. It was probably, other than that night with the Mars Attacks premiere, is one of the best experiences I've ever had in a movie theater.
And I back him up.
So first impressions of the movie when you saw it the first time or the first couple of times. Mm-hmm. even well, we touched on it a little bit when you saw it on when it came on CBS and such. But when did you decide Star Wars is my thing and nobody else can have it? And here we go.
Beth?
Yeah.
I don't know if I ever decided it was my thing. I think it just was my thing instantaneously. I don't think there was any conscious thought involved. I think it was just I grew up around sci-fi and I grew up watching Doctor Who and Star Trek and all those other things, and Star Wars was new. You know, Star Trek, Doctor Who, those had been around. Star Wars was new. I mean, even if I wasn't seeing it when it was brand new, but it was something new and it was something different. And it was something that could be ongoing, and of course is still ongoing for me. You know, of course, Star Trek, Doctor Who, those are all still going on too, but it was like getting it on the ground floor of something, and it wasn't even a thought. It was just, this is my life now. I love Star Wars.
Ryan,
Chad?
what about
Ryan? Yeah.
Mine, you know, it was just always around, you know, since before I can remember. My room was completely full of, my grandparents would buy me every action figure I wanted. So I had all of them. And I, you know, every Halloween I would wear this sweet old Halloween Luke costume that said Star Wars on the plastic bib with a terrible mask. And yeah, it was just, it kind of has always been in my life and never gone away.
I know opening night, the first screening is when I knew. Two moments. One when Luke and Leia swing over the cavern, the crevice in the Death Star. That's when I learned what movies was. That was the moment where I was like, "This is movies." Okay. Remember, I'm 4 or 5 years old. But the thing that cemented it to me forever was the last 20 minutes. Was the Battle of Yavin, and most specifically, again, I'm a kid. I have no idea how it's going to turn out, right? I have not seen a lot of movies. I have no clue what's happening. And what I damn well did not know was that Han Solo was going to show up and save the day. And when the Falcon comes down out of the sun, it changed my entire life. I've never felt more exhilarated. I had never felt happier. I'd never been more excited in my entire life. And it hooked me for life that moment. I became obsessed after that. But to me, it all comes down to that very tense last 20 minutes that Lucas constructed, and the hooker with a heart of gold coming back, which a more savvy film goer would have known was going to happen because they've seen a bunch of movies. But as a child, I had no idea what was going to happen, and so him coming in to save the day was just hooked me for life. Then I got obsessed with the toys and all that stuff.
Of course. Yeah. So, John.
I don't know specifically. I mean, I obviously that night, you know, I saw it twice. The first time I saw it, you know, it made an impression on me right away. But you know, I mean, I was 10 years old when Star Wars came out. I was like the perfect age. But at that point, I mean, I'd already been, you know, we'd already had, you know, Planet of the Apes and Star Trek. I mean, you know, I know a lot of Star Wars fans give me grief because I still like Star Trek, but it's like, you know, I had Captain Kirk and company long before I ever had Luke Skywalker. Granted, I love me some Luke Skywalker and Vader and all that, but you know, I mean, I play the field. That doesn't sound right. No, but I mean, it fit. I mean, there's just something, a part of me that just said, "Yep, I'm."
Oh, I think he's gone again.
So, Gary.
I really couldn't tell you. It's like I was 6 when it came out. So
Am I dropping?
Yeah, you were dropping in and out there again, John.
No.
But I was cognizant of what, I've been a Star Trek fan. I was a sci-fi fan, and then there was something in those trailers that just hooked me, and I had to see this. So I started consuming it any way I could. Like I said, I grabbed all the comic adaptations. I gave up my lunch money for a week to buy the big comic book adaptation from the
Oh
store.
yeah, the Marvel Treasury edition.
Mm-hmm. And I got the novelization. So like, there was just something about this adventure in space with, space wizards and Darth Vader, and all of that just grabbed me somewhere in here and has never let go. Like, one of my prized possessions for the longest time was I had that Burger King poster of Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, and I had that on my wall, and I would just read that paragraph over and over and over again, trying to just cram more Star Wars into my head.
I was that way with when Marvel Star Wars comics came out. I felt like that was the first time that there had been like a synergy between two of the things that I loved, and of course I felt like, well, the Star Wars thing, there's not enough time to do movies every month, so now I'm getting a continuation of the Star Wars thing in monthly comics
with giant 6 foot tall green rabbit men.
Hey,
yes, sir.
It's fun. I mean,
some rabbits. But as far as just the first impression from the movie, Chewie, I believe Chewie is the thing that got me started. I'm not positive why. I think that the wacky sidekick was always somebody tiny, like Twiki on Buck Rogers, but Chewie was somebody who would kill you and rip your arm off, and I just thought, well, that's even better. He's the best sidekick.
Let's see Twiggy do that.
Yeah. Give that a shot.
Actually, I'd like to see Twiggy do that.
Actually, yeah, that'd be pretty cool. But I just and that could be because of $6 Million Man. Maybe I was super into Bigfoot for some reason. But Chewie is what did it for me. And then once, I think Star Wars was the gateway for me to talking about nerd stuff with all the kids at school, because everybody went to see Star Wars, even the people who, even like from every strata of child, we all went to see Star Wars. And that was something I had not experienced at the time, because while I super loved comic books, there was like one other dude, and he's kind of my best friend to this day, Dave, if you're watching. But it's something that that just sticks with you no matter what age you first start watching it.
Well, it was certainly a gateway into a lot of other stuff. I mean, I remember especially after, ones that, Splinter of the Mind's Eye came out and Brian Daley's books came out. It was like, I wanted to read more of what they wrote, so I discovered, the Doomfarers of Coromandel and basically, and then more science fiction, and there's just more and more and more. And I mean, because with Star Trek, for whatever reason, I was really into Star Trek, and I had read some of like the Star Trek books, but I'd never really gone into much other science fiction past that. But Star Wars really got me to do that.
That is a good point. And I read like the before Star Wars, or around the time of Star Wars, I read my uncle, who I blame on everything on. He had all the novelizations of every episode, those mission log books by
Alan Dean Foster
or James Blish.
Oh,
Blish.
James Blish.
I cannot think of their name. But yeah, he had all those, and so I was super into the collaboration or lack thereof between books and live action stuff. So when Star Wars came out and they had it too, crazy, absolutely nutso. What about what Gary? What?
Yeah. Well, I was going to ask, I remember when I was a kid and growing up in fandom, some of the older sci-fi fans poo-pooing Star Wars, saying it wasn't real science fiction, or that he just ripped off all these other people. There was one guy I knew who would never let it go that Lensman did Jedi first. in his opinion. So I want to start with Chad.
Mm-hmm.
Is Star Wars science fiction or science fantasy?
It's fantasy.
Go for it.
This is my layman's opinion.
Okay.
Science fiction is speculative, is more speculative. Star Wars is not speculative. That's the main thing to me. Star Wars is, you have to think of it in terms of, this is how I think of it. People make jokes about how every planet is the same climate. Well, think of it like a map in a fantasy novel. It's not the planet of Tatooine, it's the desert of Tatooine. It's the swamps of Dagobah, right? It's the lava. Well, I'm not going to bring Mustafar into it. We're not there yet. But to me personally, with the tropes that it uses, with the princesses and the hero's journey, not to say you can't use that stuff in science fiction, but it never felt like, it's definitely not a hard sci-fi story. It's a space opera. It's a fantasy story. It just happens to take place in space. It's also a political allegory. It's a lot of different things, but it's to me, it's never been hard sci-fi. I love sci-fi, and it's definitely sci-fi adjacent and related, and it's definitely a gateway into that stuff. But as far as like, I don't know, my definition of science fiction is speculative. That's all. And this is not speculative. This is space wizards. The existence of the Force kind of changes that for me, just personally. It kind of makes it into a fantasy. So that's just my opinion.
And how about you, Ryan?
I don't know if I can add much more to that. Yeah. I guess for me, I mean, what makes the Star Wars work for me, I think, is all those kind of other things that it brings in, as far as, like Chad said, religion and space wizards and things like that. Also, I think the lived in look of it, kind of like what Chad was saying, where a lot of times sci-fi is speculative, where you see future technology and all that. And well, obviously we don't have hyperspace and know how that works, but nobody really does. I think that is definitely more, space fantasy for me.
Right,
yeah,
John?
Darren in the chat says mythology couched with science fiction tropes. Yeah, I would say that.
Yeah,
John.
They've pretty much said it all. I mean, it's a space fantasy with Western tropes and
samurai tropes and all sorts.
Yeah, it's funny.
I mean, it's basically everything Lucas grew up with thrown into a blender, and a lot of it is because I mean, I forget if it's King Features, but he couldn't get the rights to do Flash Gordon. He wanted to do a Flash Gordon feature, and he couldn't get the rights to it. Well, I'll write something better, and he did.
He also, remember, one thing that I think it's important to remember, and we talked about this recently on the podcast, is that Star Wars wouldn't exist if they had wanted to make Apocalypse Now. George Lucas and John Milius in the early 70s were working on Apocalypse Now, and none of the studios wanted to make it.
He was supposed to direct it.
Yeah, because Lucas was going to direct it. And no one wanted to make it because we were just coming out of the war, and no studio was going to touch that whatsoever. And so Lucas said, fine, I'm going to take all this stuff that I love, Flash Gordon, old serials, Kurosawa movies, all these things that I love, I'm going to put them in a blender, but I'm going to do Vietnam in space. And that's where it started, was his inclination to tell a war story. And for years, of course, Apocalypse Now would get made in 79 by Coppola, but he wanted to do Vietnam in space. And for people who want to say Star Wars isn't political, guess what? America's not the rebels in that allegory. So it's always had there's always been an element of a warning about fascism and things like that in Star Wars. But yeah, it wouldn't have even happened. So yeah, he wanted to take all of those things that had influenced them and wrap them up in this war tale, and if you've read any of the original drafts, it was nuts for a very long time. It made very little sense, all the original drafts.
Well, at least one early draft got in the comic book adaptation, because the movie wasn't done when when Roy Thomas and whoever else, the artiste, had to crank that thing out. So the comic book is super different. And Jabba the Hutt is in it, and he's a dude, just some human guy.
He was a dude when they shot it.
But they did shoot it that way. I mean, what Roy Thomas had to work with was the shooting script. It's not that different. I mean, what's really different is like the 74 draft.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Deke, Star Killer.
Yeah.
Characters like that. Luke was a girl for a little while.
Ooh.
Han was an alien. There's all sorts of. I highly recommend R.W. Rensler's Making of Star Wars coffee table books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and they did adapt
one of the drafts
later as George Lucas's Star Wars,
as
one of them,
yeah,
Star Wars or something.
Yeah, it's called The Star Wars. I've got it on my shelf, and it's really interesting. But if I highly recommend just reading the first couple of chapters of that making of book, just so you can see how much of development it went through, because it's nothing like what you've seen. No.
Okay. All right, Beth, what do you think makes 45? What makes this franchise last 45 years? What do you, for you? What makes Star Wars work?
Well, because you've got the groundwork there for mythology already. What's a Clone War? In 1977, what's a Clone War? What's a Jedi? What's a spice freighter? Owen told Luke his dad was a navigator on a drug smuggling ship. And that's somehow better than being a Jedi. What's a Jedi even? We don't know any of these things the first time we see the first movie. So there's so much lore to it that, I mean, obviously we're still exploring it to this day. And it's a whole galaxy of stories to tell. I don't think there's an end point for Star Wars, because there's just so much to it. And hey, you don't like the Jedi? Well, there's lots of stories without Jedi in them. Hey, you don't want to read about spice runners? Don't read a book about Poe Dameron. There's many areas you can.
Don't read that book. I think that's the big key of it. For continuing, like, there's so many different routes you can go. If you want to, like I say, if you want to read a war story, there's books, like Rogue Squadron, or you can read about, the religion of the Jedi, or you can read romance. Like, there's so many different genres that can still fit in and feel like Star Wars.
I mean, it never. The funny thing to me is it never went away. Like, when I remember when the Phantom Menace came out and everyone's like, Star Wars is back, and I'm like, I never stopped paying attention. And then when Force Awakens comes back, Star Wars is back, and I never felt that. My brother and I had all three movies on one VHS, on one SLP long play VHS.
Yes.
And we would come home from school and we would pop in the VHS and we would press play wherever we had stopped the day before. And we would just let it run until dinner. And then at dinner, we would press stop. And then the next day, we would repeat. And then when it got to the end of Jedi and the Ewoks were dancing, we'd rewind the whole thing and watch the whole trilogy over again. My brother and I could probably still recite all three movies. We could probably act them out, kind of like that scene in Reign of Fire. If anyone's seen Deep Cut Reign of Fire.
Yes.
I think pretty much since 97, Star Wars has never really gone away. But there was a period from like 86 to 91.
It's fallow.
You got to remember what a bombshell Heir to the Empire was. I mean, nobody expected it to be a hit, and then it just blew through the bestseller list.
And the comics.
And you should listen to the 3 episodes that the Execute Chapter 66 just did.
We discovered that trilogy, but the comics blew up right after that as well, and started bringing things. There was a very fallow period where all you had to go on was the Ewok movies. And the role
because Marvel ended their run in 86, So.
I had the role-playing game books, and they were a really good wealth of information and stuff.
Oh man, I was supposed to when West End Games imploded. I was supposed to work. I was actually developing some artwork for them. I was going to do this big not really triptychs, but a double cover for these new source books, and then West End imploded, and the company fell apart, and it never happened, drove me nuts. But that led to me working on Star Wars later because all the guys from West End ended up at WizKids, so
nice.
I still play that game. So
which game? The Star Wars game or
the West End game?
Okay,
yeah,
it's a great
with my friends. Yeah,
it's a great system.
Yeah, it's a good system. But you're right. There was a very fallow period between 83 and 91 for sure. And but you're right. After the special editions, it hasn't gone away.
That's when,
You know.
Yeah. Anybody else still remember that first trailer for when the special editions were coming out, where it had that little 13-inch TV going, "If this is the only way you've ever seen Star Wars," and the X-wing?
Yep.
Yeah.
I cried. I literally cried.
Yeah. Because that was the first time I know I saw it on the big screen.
Yeah. I went and saw it like 6 times that first week, and I still remember I was working in a movie theater at the time, and I was very upset that my manager was like, "No, we're not going to get it." I'm like, "We're not getting the," and he was like, "No," he's like, "This is a movie that's not on VHS. Nobody's going to go see this. It's going to bomb. It's just going to flop." And then I proceeded. It's like I told him, like, "You do realize that the Star Wars fan club has 3 times the membership of all 3 Star Trek clubs put together, right?"
But you don't have to be in the Star Wars fan club. My mom likes Star Wars movies. Like they're popular films. The films themselves, we can get into the minutiae and we can talk about the books and the comics and all that stuff. But the 3 original movies themselves are just movies that a lot of people like. And I think people forget that because we get caught up in our geekdom and all the nerdy stuff about it.
Yeah, because
they're not big movies.
Not to denigrate the books or anything like that, but and I've run into this with various fandoms, is people forget that the audience for the actual television, film, whatever, is monstrous compared to the readership of the books and stuff like that. They just reach a minuscule percentage of the fans that tune in for the actual things. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them. They're fun. They tell some great stories and stuff like that. But that's not Star Wars to the general public.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's just those movies, and my dad doesn't know a Grand Admiral Thrawn from a hole in the ground, but if Empire Strikes Back is on TBS, he'll watch it, because it's just a good movie that he likes. So I think you're right though. We do. Star Wars nerds do tend to think that they have a larger share of the fan base than they really do.
And that's a really good point. You can look at it in two different ways. I mean, you have the general public who, as y'all said, I mean, they like it because it's 3 cool movies, and to varying degrees. Now there's a bunch more of those, but then the rest of us have the nerd contingent. We have all the other stuff. I
remember because there was this one moment I like to point out on that when Ahsoka showed up on Mandalorian, and one moment she was, "I'm looking for Grand Admiral Thrawn," and I'm like, "Holy shit!" And Heather is sitting there going, "Huh?" She's never read any of those.
It's the same thing as when for comics nerds, when they name somebody from Marvel comic in some random Marvel movie, like I go, "Holy shit, they just said Star Fox." It's the same thing.
Oh hell, the first time Thanos showed up, the general public goes, "What's with the purple dude?" And the rest of the fans are going
Exactly. And I love that about all of this. Whenever that happens, I love it. But I think that Star Wars might have been the first. I think it was the first place to do that, where they said, "Hey, there's this other stuff you can go and grab, or just watch the movies. It's fine." And there's let's do this. Let's shift gears for a minute, because I do want to talk about the special editions. Or let's just talk about the special edition of Star Wars, since this is just about Star Wars.
Sure.
What was your mind blown when you watched the special edition of Star Wars, when they had Oh, now there's extra stormtroopers. Tell us about that.
Go ahead, Beth.
Well, okay, so Mos Eisley did not bother me because it didn't look, besides the cantina, it didn't look much like a wretched, scum and villainy. There was nothing. There was like two dudes in Mos Eisley. Jabba, Boba Fett, that bothered me. This was not as bothersome to me as some of the stuff they did later in the special editions.
We're not here to talk about Jedi rocks.
Thank God. I have nothing to say about that. So this movie was not as messed with as Jedi was, and it wasn't as hands off as Empire was. It was fine. It was fine.
I remember it feeling weird. Like, I remember watching it and getting pulled out every time. Because even if it was just like a feedback in the background, I'd be like, well, that's not.
You're like, that feedback's not supposed to be there.
Yeah.
Well, when you know the movie so well.
Oh, yeah.
There's one change in The New Hope that I love, which is they add back a scene with Biggs.
But not all of it.
No, not all of it, because that stuff doesn't exist. There's no restorable footage to put the original big scene back in. That would
they cut in the middle where the pilot is talking about Luke's father. They have it. They add somebody in to cover
they added that scene in, but like the early stuff with Biggs, you can't restore. That stuff isn't available for restoration fully. Like it only exists on a work print.
But
it actually
doesn't look good.
Yeah,
it doesn't look good in what's been released. I can tell you that footage does exist in full resolution. I have seen it.
Oh, have you? Okay. They never released it because it doesn't. But I love that little change where they added Biggs at the end because it adds a little bit to the stakes of the battle.
It makes us care about Biggs.
Read the novelization, we know those scenes, or the additions they did for the Star Wars radio series.
With Cam and with Cammy and Fixer and Wendy and all those. The Jabba scene bothers me not because he steps on Jabba's tail, even though that's pretty dumb. The Jabba scene bothers me because the dialogue is exactly the same dialogue as the Greedo scene.
Yeah,
because the Greedo scene was kind of created as a replacement scene for that scene a little bit, and they repeat the exact same dialogue, and it's completely superfluous. A lot of it. Han uses the same line. Even I get bored sometimes. You think I had a choice? That's in that scene too, and so it always felt superfluous. Even though it was cool, we're seeing Jabba in A New Hope. It never story wise never worked out.
Well, a lot of the stuff for the special editions was also. 20th Century Fox threw that money at Lucas as basically to sweeten the pot to get him to give them the prequels, and then also he used it as R&D for what they were going to do for the prequels.
It was very much a test bed.
And there's some good stuff in all of them, and there's some bad stuff in all of them, in my opinion. So, but I agree with Brian. It was weird.
There's an episode of The Simpsons where Bart and Lisa go to meet the guy who made their Simpsons universe version of Star Wars, and the George Lucas character talks about what they can do with digital eyelash rendering and how it's going to revolutionize movies, and they tell him just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something, and I always come back to that.
Hair is very difficult to do.
Well, it's also like the Lucas quote. A special effect without a story is not a special thing. I think that's the quote.
No, I think that, but I also think I was so entranced by seeing Star Wars on the big screen for the first time because I'd seen it, like I said, I'd seen it on a little television the first time, and then eventually they put it out on a widescreen VHS.
Yes.
So I had the widescreen VHSs, and so every time it was a new iteration, it opened up a little bit for me. So when they put out the widescreen version, I got to see more of the movie than I had ever seen before on the sides of the screen. And so every time so throughout the years, the movie just got bigger and bigger and bigger to me until 97, where I can actually go see it in the theater. And there was stuff I didn't like, and I just kind of, bit my tongue and just powered through it because I knew I was going to get the cool stuff. and it was worth it.
Yeah,
So-
for me, what I just remember watching it in the theater for the first time on that special edition, and of all things, just watching the sand crawler moving across
Mhm.
Tatooine, and
Yeah.
I was just like blown away, and I'm like, this is just the sand crawler, but still, there's this little part, the little nerd in the back of my brain going, ah!
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, some of those digital touch-ups look good. The digital touch-ups on the fighters during the Battle of Yavin look pretty good, actually. It takes a little bit away from the original motion control wizardry that they came up with back in 77, 76. Yeah, I don't know. They are now just Star Wars pretty much. Although today I did watch my 4K of 1977 cut today.
Speaking of stuff like that, I don't know if you guys have ever read the script or seen the trailer for it, but Patrick Reed Johnson's 5/25/77 has been picked up for release. Is going to be coming out later on this year.
Has it finally?
Huh?
Finally?
Finally, yeah. I mean, I've had a copy of it for years.
I've never seen it. I met him at a con forever ago. I still have the button, but
yeah. Actually, believe it or not, I edited Backyard Blockbusters on one of the computers that he did some of the early cuts of 5/25/77 on. I bought it off of him, and so he gave me a copy of the film as it existed in 2011.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's finally getting a release later on this year, an actual theatrical and then VOD and stuff like that. But so at least y'all know who I'm talking about, because Patrick's one of the few fans who got to experience the visual effects as they were being created before anybody knew what it was, or before the public knew what it was.
Yeah.
It's a fun film. I think y'all enjoy it.
Yeah, I'm looking for. Like I said, I've been waiting for 10 years to see the movie.
So don't think about it too long. Let's go around the horn. Favorite vehicle from just the first movie, Gary.
TIE Fighter.
Beth.
X-wing.
Ryan.
Oh, X-wing.
John.
Falcon.
Yeah. Chad.
I'm a Han Solo guy.
Except John called Falcon land speeder.
Land speeder's great, but I'm a Han Solo guy. It's always
Yeah.
I'm at Heather's house, not at home, but I'm at Heather's house, not at home. But one of my best purchases ever that got to be a tax write-off is when I was doing the Star Wars project for WizKids. I was able to buy the Master Replicas Falcon and use it for reference. Oh yeah, that thing!
I think it's nice.
So gorgeous.
Yeah, I remember watching the movie.
Right over there.
I remember watching the movie, and Luke called it a piece of junk, and I wanted to hit him.
You son of a bitch.
I was like, "That's the coolest thing I've ever seen." What are you talking about?
That was where I turned against Luke. I'm like, I don't care what happens to this guy.
Like, this is the coolest thing ever. What are you?
But isn't that one of the moments that really sells that world, that it is this lived in, that we're looking at, we're saying this is awesome, and for them it's just like, yeah, it's a freighter.
Well,
it is
also, the fact that back then, they built that bastard. I mean, there's overhead. Well, they built half of it. I mean, there's overhead shots that are matte paintings, but when they're walking into Docking Bay 94, that thing is there.
Yeah.
So again, don't think about it too fast, too long. Favorite creature, Ryan. Just in the first movie.
Let's see. From the first. Not really a creature. I always liked the Jawas. I was always fascinated by them, and would walk around my house with a bath towel over my head and try to talk to my parents in Jawanese, and they were not amused.
Yeah, it's like,
They were not amused. John.
Well, I mean, he's a character as well as a creature, but I'd have to say Chewie.
Oh yeah. Chad.
That's a tough one. I always thought the dewbacks were kind of cool looking, but they didn't move at all until the special edition. They didn't move. They were just kind of lumps. Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna go with monsters, Chewie's a good choice because they spent a lot of time working on that character to try to get him exactly right. And what people don't realize, all it comes down to is Peter Mayhew's eyes.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes that character work. It's just Peter Mayhew's eyes. That's all.
Yeah.
And it's funny. I don't know about you guys, but I can actually tell in like Force Awakens when it's Peter and when it's Eunice.
Yeah, and Eunice does a good job.
Oh yeah, no, he's good, but the shape of the head is different. But you can see the eyes. I mean, especially whenever it's a close up, it's Peter, and you can see the difference in their eyes. I think.
Yeah, and Kyle, the trash compactor monster, the Dianoga was cool too. It was a scary scene when I was a kid. Very
super
scary.
Yeah.
Even though you don't get to see it, but sometimes a trash octopus is just a trash octopus.
Beth.
Yeah, you get to see the spark.
Are droids creatures?
Yes.
If droids are creatures, then R2.
Yeah.
Well, there's a whole politics discussion right there. Droids are really third-class citizens of the Star Wars universe.
They really are.
It depends.
Chewie didn't get a medal. R2 didn't get a medal. Chewie eventually got his medal. I'm still waiting for justice for R2.
I never thought about that because nobody even, as mad as we were, as mad as I was about Chewie never getting a medal, that is a good point. Nobody gave crap to R2 or 3PO.
You were going to make a point, Chad? Well,
yeah. I mean, it's all I was going to say is in Star Wars with the droids, they're third-class citizens if they don't have names. Like just like they're only sentient if they have names.
Right.
Like, it's another thing that makes it more fantasy than sci-fi to me is that like R2 and 3PO have souls.
I don't know. They definitely weren't allowed to come in that bar, and they sure were quick to put a restraining
That's true.
on.
That's true.
I was watching today.
The world themselves, they were kicked out of the bar.
You're somewhat a sentient creature, and I'm going to put this little bolt on you so you can't do what you want.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But as far as them like being actual like almost living creatures, it really just depends on whether or not they're part of our story. If they're just a bunch of battle droids or something, they're garbage. If they can be destroyed by the thousands or whatever. But if it's R2, R2's got a soul.
Yeah.
Oh, one of the not that this is the topic of this panel, but that final story arc of Clone Wars, when we saw those droids get destroyed, I was just
I was so upset.
Yeah,
Happens in Phantom Menace
that
too. Happens in
broke my
Phantom Menace
heart.
too. Phantom Menace has that really funny bit where they're on top of the Naboo starship, and R2 and all the astromechs go on top, and they just start getting picked off one at a time.
Oh,
yeah. And
But
all of them
R2
except
survives
R2.
because R2 has a soul.
Yes. Yeah, and for me, if droids count, then it's 3PO. I have always been a 3PO fan. I've always loved 3PO.
Who's a 3PO fan?
Me.
Okay.
I have always been one. Again, I had the Burger King poster, and just there's something about this nattering know-it-all. Just I find him adorable, and just thank the maker, and just he's the comic relief. And
He
then
loved
it was
himself in oil baths.
And thank our lucky stars that Lucas listened to Tony Daniels when he said, "Let me do it in my own voice and not in that used car salesman." They wanted, and of course now 3PO's a car salesman. But if you've seen the commercial,
yeah, he wanted him to have a slick,
well, I'm slick and sleazy. And no, I mean
it looks better. He sounds like an English butler.
Oh yeah,
it looks better for sure.
Yeah.
Luckily, he didn't listen to David Prowse.
Oh God.
Oh yeah.
Leaving David Prowse's voice. If you've ever heard those clips.
Yeah.
I have. It's something.
Yeah.
It is something. Last thing. It doesn't have to be the last thing. We could stay on here 4 more hours. But one of the last things. What are your first or your favorite or both? Our friend Lynn just popped in right here with what's your first or favorite Star Wars geeky merchandise thing that you have? Mine is R5D4, because when my birthday and Christmas rolled around that first time, all the R2D2s were gone from the Big B or the Harco. So I got the only droid left, which was the one who was busted in the very first time you see droids. He's the first one, and R5D4 blows up, and that's the one I got.
Yeah, and that wasn't even part of the original 12. I mean, that was like that was part of the second release of figures.
Yeah, that's because they were all gone. Everybody got Han and Chewie and Darth with the little pink the pink lightsaber. And
or if you bought your pre-release pack or whatever, right? Your pre-order pack that they put out in front of Christmas that year, where they sold you the idea of action figures.
They sold you the empty box, and bless them, it worked. I'm sure they made.
To be fair, they do that now with.
I was about to say, yeah.
And if you get lucky, you get the double extender sabers. You know.
Hey, Ryan, how many pre-orders you got right now?
Oh gosh, so many. I think I've got like 6 in the last 2 days.
Yeah. Now it's completely common to buy toys before they, years before they come out. But
I got the Jackson Star Wars Rabbit on pre-order.
I have that too.
And boy, when it came in, that was a big day around my house. But favorite merchandise, Ryan.
So I think my favorite I've got a whole basement full of stuff. Like I've got hundreds of figures and lightsabers and all that. But I think the most important, I still have my original Chewie and Stormtrooper from when I was a kid. And they're the only 2 figures I have left because one summer I went to summer camp. And when I came home, my mother had given them all to charity. And Chewie and R2, Chewie and the Stormtrooper happened to be under my bed. And so they're all I have left of it.
Yeah, mine got sold too.
John.
Well, I still have all my original Kenner figures. They're boxed up, and like I said, the very first piece I bought was the belt buckle I showed you guys earlier.
Yeah.
If not my Falcon, which is a choice piece, by the way. No, it's at one point in like 1987 or 88, we found out what the lightsabers were made out of, and I cleaned out a local camera store of a box of Greyflex flashes, and sold a bunch of them off to my friends and various other people at conventions and stuff like that. But so I have I built my own lightsaber from an actual Greyflex back in the day.
Nice.
And I obviously don't have it here because I'm in Heather's, but I still have that one. It obviously doesn't have a blade or anything like that. It's just a hilt. But I tracked down the Little Professor calculator bubbles, and I eventually found somebody that made like when I replaced the windshield wiper blades I'd used with more realistic replicas later. But that's probably, the lightsaber that I built myself is probably one of my favorite pieces.
Cool. Beth.
Mine is similar to John's, but much lower tech. Many years ago, my husband and I saw videos on YouTube about people making their own lightsaber hilts out of plumbing parts. So we had some drinks back when my husband still drank, and we went to Home Depot and we bought a crap ton of plumbing parts, and we spent a whole night making our own hilts out of plumbing parts, and they don't look bad. They need a little polish, but they don't look bad.
Yeah, when Trey Stokes designed Stacy's lightsaber for the Pink 5 sequels, that's basically what he did. He started using parts and wrapping, and turned out some really nice looking sabers.
Chad.
Of the stuff I had as a kid, other than my Falcon,
Sure.
I loved I had a couple of pairs of the speeder bikes that broke apart.
Yeah.
Had a little button to make them broke apart. That's just because the biker scouts and that scene in Jedi just blew my mind. My favorite piece now that I have up is either my picture of Han and Chewie signed by Harrison Ford and Peter Mayhew, or my Clone Wars poster that is signed by the whole cast, but that's not New Hope related. But I have a picture from New Hope with Han and Chewie that I got signed by Harrison Ford and Peter Mayhew.
Yeah,
so
wow.
I got it signed by Peter Mayhew, hoping one day I could get the other half signed. And a friend of mine worked as Harrison's assistant on Cowboys and Aliens, that masterpiece. And Harrison doesn't like signing Star Wars stuff, but he'll do it for the crew. He always does it for the crew. He had to sign. He was signing like tauntauns, but the whole time he's going like, "You people are sick. Like he's the grumpiest dude in the world when it comes to it. But oh, that's nice.
That's cool.
What is Y-wings? That's very nice.
Yeah.
Gary.
As a kid, it was my Falcon. I got the Falcon for Christmas one year, and I played with it until it fell to pieces. That was the crown jewel. You know, it didn't matter what action figures I had. My GI Joes were on the Falcon. You know.
Oh yeah.
Now it's
noise. Didn't it make a noise that it never made in the movie?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just
made a buzzing noise.
Well, it's supposed to be like the laser sound or something. It's kind of like the laser sound on the X-wings, which is basically just the spinner against the piece of plastic.
Yeah.
Kids these days are spoiled.
Yeah, the X-wing too. Yeah.
Yeah, but for my favorite, what I have now is I got to go to Galaxy's Edge after Dragon Con last year, and I have my lightsaber I built there, and I love it so much.
Did you get to stay on the Halcyon?
No, the Halcyon wasn't open yet.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, the
And I don't.
You don't have $6,000 for a weekend.
That too. Hey, I had the Delators.
I've heard it's all the luxury.
Yes, the Delators.
The service is supposed to be excellent.
Yes, everyone who has been to Dragon Con has met the Delators are actually at Galaxy's Edge right now.
Right.
And they've been posting pictures, and I'm like, I hate you.
I hate no panels for you. One of my favorite Star Wars things is my daughter and all of her buddies, when they all graduated high school last May, they all bought their own lightsabers, and they had lightsaber battles for her graduation party. And I thought, I felt like my work here is done. But you guys, this has been amazing. Thank you. We could stay here 3 more hours. I haven't talked about my Star Wars alarm clock yet.
I got nothing to do. Let's do it.
All right. Star Wars alarm clock.
It starts with an opening crawl.
Yes.
Oh, I was gonna just go back to the movie, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should probably have talked about the movie a little more.
Someone
We
earlier
talked about
suggested
the
we do
movie
a table
some.
read. So
Say what?
Someone earlier in the chat suggested we do like a table read of the movie.
I would be 100% down for that.
I call Han.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, I'm R5D4 then. Nobody
Yeah, I wonder who I'd have to be. There's so many women to pick from in Star Wars.
Oh, you're 3PO. You're obviously 3PO.
You can be Amber.
You get to be Crowe.
Can I just be the mouse droid?
There you go.
One mouse droid.
I have a couple of Lynn in the chat. I have a couple of the Hamilton plates too. I think I have a Falcon Hamilton plate. I've got all
Nice.
sorts of random.
I think I did get one of those because I've got one mounted on the same mirror base as my Falcon, and I don't remember which one. It's one of the small ones. It's like an oval or something.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I had a few of those, but I haven't gotten to Galaxy's Edge yet. So I'm sure I will covet my lightsaber when I get back from Galaxy's Edge. But
I will go there someday.
As long as I get a Life Day orb, I'm fine.
Exactly. Thank you, Beth. One of us. Happy Life Day. Oh, you know what? No. I'm not going to talk about the holiday special. I made a promise to myself. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Well, we're so glad you guys that we got together for this on the anniversary day, the Orthodox celebration of the Star Wars. If you should wish to be found on the interwebs, where can people find you, Chad?
I'm kind of boycotting Twitter these days. So you can't really find me on Twitter anymore. Certain circumstances in the world have made me want to leave Twitter. You can find our podcast we have a Facebook page, just Execute Chapter 66. And then me personally, you can check out my Instagram at Chad J. Shonk, like it says on here. But mostly I have another podcast called A Feat of Lunatic Daring. We're a podcast about Jim Henson and the Muppets, where we are telling the entire life story of Jim Henson through all of his major works. And actually, the next episode we're recording is about the Mark Hamill episode. So
nice.
I'm very excited about that. But that's it. Not a whole lot. Like I said, Twitter is kind of dead to me right now.
Yeah. John?
Well, I don't really have much of a social. I mean, I don't do podcasts. I don't have one of my own, and most of my social media stuff is private. But my website is zteamproductions.com. Opposite of A-Team, zteamproductions.com. And my films, American Scary and Backyard Blockbusters, are both streaming on Amazon Prime. Give them a watch. You'll find something there to enjoy.
And we can find your Star Wars shirts on the YouTube, or
if you search for Z Team Productions on YouTube, you can find all of my Star Wars shorts there, as well as various stuff from the documentaries from American Scary and Backyard Blockbusters, and the one I'm working on right now about comedy improv called Chair.
Nice. And links to all this stuff will be in our YouTube show notes soon, I swear. Ryan.
Type.
I'm not really much on social media except for the podcast. So, but if you want to chat about Plo Koon or Sheev or any of our favorite topics, come on over.
We got an episode coming up about Mace Windu that's coming up soon. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, subscribe to Execute Chapter 66 with the promo code SHEEV.
We could use a sponsorship if anyone wants to throw one our way.
Anybody want? Yeah.
I will shill for anything.
Yeah.
We'll take some of that sweet Sheev money.
Yeah, we'll take some of that Squarespace money or anything like that, whatever they advertise on every single podcast.
Let me practice. Man, these Twizzlers are delicious.
Yeah.
Speaking of Star Wars,
I mean, I have built websites on Squarespace. If they want me to espouse the virtues of Squarespace for a few bucks a month, I'll do that.
And Beth.
Well, I'm on Facebook as well, but not doing much of anything. And Instagram is just cat pictures. So, yeah. But you can find Execute Chapter 66 on Spotify or wherever you find fine podcasts. Or not fine podcasts. On all platforms.
Yeah. And Gary.
Here. Yeah. Occasionally with them.
You found us.
Yeah, Gary's been on the show a few times. Yeah.
Yep. I managed to get you guys a rather sweet interview a year ago.
He did. He did. Gary got Timothy's on our show. And,
cool.
We most recently had Stephen Cummings, who's the artist on the most recent Star Wars comic book series, Crimson Reign. Also was a guest on our show recently.
Yeah. Like I said, it's my favorite Star Wars podcast. Everyone should be listening to it.
Sure.
And
you find me here or on there.
Now
God, I'm gone.
Yeah, now he's gone.
Yeah.
But yeah, every couple of weeks we're here. We're going to be in live action this fall at the Dragon Con. Come by to the somewhat close to a basement of the Marriott. I was told we're not actually in the basement, but
there are further levels down.
Oh.
We're not in the same rooms anymore?
We're in the same room. It's just technically there are rooms below us, so we're not the
technically
basement.
We're not in the basement of the basement. We're in there are floors below us, but not in our hearts. There are no floors above us in our hearts, ladies and gentlemen. But yeah, we're here every 2 weeks on Facebook.com/group/American Sci-Fi Classics. Just search for American Sci-Fi Classics on YouTube. If you want to see me be a pro wrestling announcer, search for Spartan Pro Wrestling. I do that stuff. And, of course, semi-daily nerd stuff. Just Google Joe or Gary or any of us. And we are so glad you guys spent a little time away from the apocalyptic hellscape of reality with us here at the Classics Track for another few minutes. We will see you very soon. And until then, join us.
Our next episode is next Thursday. This show sucks. TV vampire shows.
Yep.
And don't forget to go on Friday.
Yes.
Thank you, guys. We will see you very soon. And good night.
May the force be with you.
Live long.
You got it in.
May the Schwartz be with you.
Someone beat us to Spaceballs in the chat already.
Dang it.